In today's edition of the series, we'll be joined by Sudarshan Suchi. Thank you for joining us, Sudarshan. Just a quick background of Sudarshan. Sudarshan is the Chief Executive Officer at Save the Children India. Save the Children India is India's leading independent child rights organization, which has reached more than 10.1 million underprivileged children. Sudarshan's primary passion has been to work in the rural, marginal communities, especially farming, to help organize and establish livelihood interventions, leverage technology, and bring a participatory approach to every aspect of work. He believes in striking a balance between cost driven and system driven development intervention by working hands on. Beyond this, he has also engages in sustainable agriculture practices in a personal capacity. Welcome, Sudarshan, and thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us at the Conversation of Change series. Um, I will. I know time is very important. I'll jump right at it and ask you my first question, Sudarshan.
Yeah,
It's been few months since you joined Save the Children team. Tell us a little bit of the work you have been involved in at Save the Children.
yeah. So thank you, Satyam. Thank you for a very generous introduction. And then this space, because this space always works mutually. I'm on the other end. It forces me to think, introspect, and reflect, even while there are people who are listening into me. So these questions as much help me as they help the audience. I think you've created a wonderful platform that way for reflectiveness in these difficult times. So let me first begin by acknowledging that. And
Thank you,
yes,
Sudarshan.
I joined in October, right in the middle of the pandemic year and the new normal year. And so I actually joined into an office which was almost vacant. So it is one of those, strange joining ins that one had.
Right,
But
right,
he connected with people and tried to make sense from various parts of the jigsaw puzzle, a giant jigsaw puzzle which says there is depth, there is breadth, and there is a complexity. And I look at the entire development engagement, of which SAVE is also a very, let's say, specific part, as the engaging with marginal communities or vulnerable people. I think there never was any normal. Forget about the new normal or old normal. There was never a normal. People were living. If there was any normal, it was in the abnormality, it was in the vulnerability. Every day was a risk, and every context is a risk. The rain, the sunshine, the winter, the summer, everything hits them harder than anybody else, the vulnerable. Children, in that, are the most vulnerable among the vulnerable. And therefore, Satyam, I came with an agenda that how do you normalize under such circumstances? It's very easy to hide behind or get into a comfort zone as to what all cannot happen because there is a new normal. But our challenge and mine was that how do we bring about a mood in which we make sure that there is continuity, there is sustenance, there is dependability. Children need to wake up every morning knowing that they are being thought about, they are being taken care of, and somebody is out there wanting to reach them out. We are a child rights organization. We are here to ensure not just education, health, nutrition, but safeguarding of children, which has become one of the biggest issues. It's constantly becoming more graver a concern, and along with as the world progresses. So our agenda has been to make sure that there is a better than normal reach out in the new normal. The new normal for vulnerable has had been more vulnerability. So coming to specifically to save, I what we did was we started connecting with everybody out there, used the technology to the hilt. Maybe that way the world actually grew smaller rather than bigger for us in the last 1 year. We made extra efforts to stay connected within the team so that we exchanged ideas with each other, listened in, untangled a lot of bottlenecks that were there. We were willing to listen to each other. We made sure we listened in and reached out to every outpost in every corner. And I would say the new normal, to some extent, worked as an opportunity because we at least cut down on our own self-imposed limitations, which were by way of processes which involved paperwork, which involved lack of digitization. So suddenly, decision making, I would say, we helped establish a new normal in decision making, which could be more quicker, faster, smoother, and decentralized. So that I would say was a winner for Save in these circumstances in the last few months. I also invested time within its limitations to travel on the ground, because whatever else, I mean, you would know it well as a development professional, your worth is not what books, page numbers, or telethons or something else tells you, but it's only as much worth as your connect to the ground reality is. So,
Right.
in various parts. So I used this time to reach out to my colleagues and to the children in East, West Bengal, West, Rajasthan, Delhi, Hyderabad, in South, in various places. But more than reaching out to them to tell them that we are there for them, it was a time to educate myself with what are the unique situations in the each of the locations, how is the coping up mechanism, and I saw magic at work, Satyam. I mean, I learned so much in this 6 months of my joining. I learned how situations make the human beings or people. So the SAVE team, first of all, the SAVE team spread out across various specialists, groups, and like any other organization, a big organization with various verticals, it came together like never before. It came together because they knew end to end we had to ensure delivery for the children. So, be it resource mobilization, be it HR, finance, and the program team, the integration was very thorough and complete, more thorough than normal times. And I think just when the expectations were at their highest, the delivery was beyond excellence in that time, and people innovated on ground. I mean, spontaneously innovated on things, on ways of doing things, on applying of technology, on communication, and in terms of uh, greater collaboration with government resources. So all these things came together, and what I experienced was a giant, complex. The mechanism factory at work all together and all to perfection just at the time when it was most difficult. So I'm inheriting and heading a very integrated organization which has established a new normal now for itself in terms of being socially undistanced, if I may say so. Physically distanced, but socially absolutely undistanced, very connected. Yeah.
Good to hear that, Sudarshan. I mean, I can also, just listening to you, I can feel like how a systems change person will enjoy this complexity more
Yeah.
of like integrating the team and integrating the work and being more inclusive when you are socially distant. It's not, it was not an easy job, and like so happy to hear what the Save the Children team did. And as you rightly pointed out, I think we definitely went back a lot in education and specifically did not do justice to the children in this
Mm.
country. Don't think we have done justice to the children in this country even in the past. So we don't. COVID
Yeah.
is probably another eye opener. But like while you're at the topic of the children, Sudarshan, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges we are facing in ensuring children's rights to everything, rights to better livelihood, rights to education, right to health, in light of what has happened because of pandemic and otherwise in a country like India?
So, what has remained same first between pre and during and post pandemic is the very idea of the vulnerable children even accepting, knowing, and embracing they have rights. Even the thought that they actually have rights over some basic needs which any independent country would indulge in. What you said, health, education, safeguarding issues, and well being. So that continues, of course, to make sure that that idea rests with the community, with the children, and rests with us, the better off and the social system, that we owe it to the children. What has been major challenges or what has changed is that the children's first is the actual physical changes, those spaces and this thing which the children were familiar with or comfortable with, and in public domain where the visibility was higher. Suddenly, in the name of pandemic, there was a remoteness, especially the first 4, 5, 6 months. Children who would be 6 hours or 10 hours at home had to be 24 hours at home, and
Right.
in social circumstances, stress of scarcity of income, scarcity of commodities, and all in their home. So the I would say the children's mental well-being has been the biggest challenge. The state of mind and stability, resilience has come to
Right.
test to its utmost. So one of our strategies has been that equally or even more focus on the mental well-being of children, the state of their mind and heart, even starting from comprehending what's the situation they are living under, to
Hmm.
how to cope up with it, and then how to really overcome to make the best in future, because everything came to test. Like I said, the physical familiarity, the loss of various opportunities in terms of further studies, and for some livelihood option and context, and for some in terms of education, a very critical, you know, landscape boards and all. That was the biggest challenge, the uncertain. So the biggest challenge was immediate coping up. Another big was the uncertainty around these issues. When will things be okay, and what will be the new okay? I mean, will it go back to the old space or worse than that? Or the fear of the unknown is the other thing that came. So our challenge was, how do you ensure that to make sense for ourselves and for the children in education? I think, I mean, this is a fear of mine, that while technology is being embraced like never before in education, and technology is the method of delivery by and large over the last year. But my fear is that technology is almost creating a new inequity. And the inequity is, you imagine a house with 6, 7 people having one smartphone to access all their needs of everybody. Second is the family and the community's evolution to embrace learning through technology. We are talking about, so Save the Children engages 70% engagement is with rural children. These are children where a school of class 1 to 10 sometimes experiences 2 rooms and 3 teachers, which itself was a struggle. Compounding that is a struggle of a new introduction of learning methods through digital learning. So digital learning is an evolution by itself. So I think our children got handicapped that much, or they became that much more increased vulnerable, and how to bridge that was a big challenge. So when I'm saying this, it was not just about children adapting technology. They take to it like fish to water. But children don't exist in isolation. It's with their parents and with the larger society. So those parents' ability to comprehend and embrace technology, afford it, the bandwidth. I mean, I would put it this way: whatever could go wrong used to go wrong in terms of that access. So that was a big challenge. Then, because of increased presence in, say, let us say, boundaried spaces, we don't have numerical data for this. This is purely empirical observation and initial preliminary finding that child safeguarding has become a bigger issue. The violation of children's rights has been on an increase during this time. Child marriages have been on increase. The basic abuse of children has marginally increased. The ability to reach out, voice, and seek, you know, external help has reduced due to the remoteness. Addressing all this and giving agency, voice in these times to children has been the other big challenge. Last and not the least, like everybody else, NGOs and all are also prisoners of our own circumstances, our own ways of doing things. So some have a 1-year-old way of doing things, some have 10-year-old and 50-year-old, and the older you are in your way of doing things, the more difficult it is for you to let go. and to adopt newer, sudden, the more contemporary circumstances. That I would say also was equally a challenge in terms of our own mindsets, the team's mindsets to quickly reinvent, reboot, and embrace or figure out newer ways. Yeah, these were some of the challenges.
I like how you said the old ways of working and thinking, because I guess a lot of times when I personally speak to corporate professionals, a lot
Yeah,
of conversations around agility which this sector brings, because I think our
yeah,
tolerance towards ambiguity is fairly agile. So we
yeah,
are very adaptable to do things, and
very
being thrown in a
true,
situation. Like you were
very
saying,
true.
Sudarshan, it's good to be connected to the ground. You don't know how long it's going to take you to
Yeah,
reach a certain village.
yeah,
Is it going to be 4 hours or is it going to be 14 hours?
yeah,
Because these are the roads less traveled, what this
yes,
sector exposes you to.
yeah,
Um, so, Sudarshan, on that, I would like to, I mean, I know in the beginning of this talk, you started talking about the team and especially at Save the Children and
mm,
how everyone came together.
mm,
I would like to know where, I mean, if you can give an example of instances where you have seen people you work with have come together and have gone beyond their calls of duty in the COVID era. And
mm.
what are some of those lessons that other social sector organizations can apply from you in their life?
So I think very simple, elementary examples, but I think very powerful and beautiful in themselves. One of the first one is some of our teams. I remember our team in South Hyderabad, then our team in Odisha and West Bengal. These teams, even I'm talking about the early days of pandemic, March, April days, April, May, when the fear, the uncertainty, and the suspense was much more. All systems everywhere had come to a standstill. The
Right,
centers of resource and the centers of scarcity were not building a bridge. So some of our team just devised a role of simply making sure identifying the places of scarcity vis-a-vis basic food, ration, hygiene stuff and all, and then reaching out to the government and other existing resources. Mind you, this was nothing to do with fundraising, donor, or anything. It was just
right,
building a bridge, a connectivity, and a delivery mechanism. So I think one part of it was courage that they stirred out of their homes. The second part of it was they had the whole last mile connectivity from the resource enabled to the resource requiring context, which I remember in Pune, some colonies, the food first to reach was through our colleagues, and their whole thing. I mean, in some ways, while I have been cribbing about technology, technology actually came to great use. Just mobiles and connecting that, be ready at that corner, get them at this time, do this, that. Where will the jeep come? Who has got which resource? Clubbing material, making it reach, and then seamless delivery. All this without violating, the social norms of no gathering and thing. Just seamless equipment. This is about our own team. But I mean, the one which kind of raises goosebumps in me is this. I remember this girl, Gayatri, in I think it was Sitamarhi district in Bihar, and so she's part of our campaign of getting the child champions together, organizing a leadership capacity among children. So, in a group of children, so this was one of those villages where the PDS system had abruptly stopped. I mean, there was just no material available for distribution in that particular two communities, and about 200 odd families left high and dry. So she first approached, the local PDS guy who threw his hand up saying we have no control, and then she approached the Panchayati Raj, the Panchayat people, who also said that made right noises but could not resolve the problem. I mean, showed upward. She gathered a group of other children and together they made a whole list of everybody right up to the district collector to whom to reach to, the food department director, every other person in the government machinery in the process, and they decided they will connect and ring up and not give up till they get a resolution or a solution. To the extent that they eventually had said that we'll come and just sit and make ourselves available at the collectorate till this issue is resolved. And lo and behold, actually, the government descended to that village and resolved her issues. I mean, delivered the food. This thing got the PDS active again. And so this was not a dole, just a regular entitlement ensuring a seamless thing. So that was one of the bright spots. And I think what it shows is a certain mindless and mindfulness mindset and a certain resilience, a certain spunk gathered. So I'm not looking at it at in pandemic it came to forefront in resolution, but I think this is something that will withstand the test of times because
Mhm.
the other one I remember is in Jodhpur. There was another girl, Renu, who was part of our campaign on marriage, no child's play context. And Renu, a socially aware girl, they that particular village girl, the supply of sanitary napkins fell short there because again in this delivery system it got blocked off the free supply of it from the district medical officials. It didn't happen. She took up the campaign. To cut the long story short, in interest of time, she picked up a scooty during the middle of the lockdown, landed up at the district hospital, and made her way right up to the CMO, who was amazed to see a 18-year-old girl coming in that particular context, demanding the supplies. So he said, "Okay, we will give, but we can't help you in terms of delivery." I said, "No, don't worry. I've come on my scooty. Even if I have to make 10 trips, I'll do it. And we'll make sure that you just ensure supplies and we'll make sure of rest of the delivery." So that whole hospital, actually, the people gathered together to cheer her as she drove off, matter of fact, on her scooty. Again, two narrations, two incidents, two girls. But actually, what we are appreciating is the larger method in this. There are children and adolescents who are taking leadership opportunity when that space was made available to them. So as Save the Children, Bal Raksha Bharat, I take great, confidence or satisfaction that what we've created is capacities and leadership context. So it's not activities, intervention, and things. It's these things which have got unlocked within people and
Right.
that actually is something to do with a transformative change in a society or in a community. It's not a change which can turn back and which can clock back with time. And the other part is it's a change that has worked in one pandemic, and it is not a change which is prescribed but which has somebody's grabbed the initiative from within. So it's a method that will last the test of times for them in more different difficult times. I mean,
Right.
I hope there is only one pandemic. I hope there are no major crises, but the circumstances, so the uncertainty. But we have people who are resilient, who will stand up and who will lead from the front, who will, even in our absence, will, you know, continue to, resolve issues for themselves. They'll be a part of the solution. That's what I take back from this whole experience.
No, thank you, Sudarshan. I think while you're talking, I remember a lot of discussions were going
Mm,
on in the last few months that how education not-for-profits were at the forefront of like working with the community.
mm,
And I guess in a typical development sector dialogues were why were education not-for-profit doing this kind of work? And I think what COVID taught us is not about that our focus is education or its health. It's about focus is community. And whatever that community needs at that given point of time, you should be able to support them. Now, like some of my personal biggest learnings have been when you have
mm.
a siloed approach and
Yeah.
you try to solve for that one thing and you realize that people don't want that one thing, probably not as a priority, but if you solve what they want for
Mm.
right now, they will come back to your one thing too and
Yes.
do justice to your intervention. I
Yes.
know we are already out of time, so I have to unfortunately skip a few questions, but I would come back to my favorite question of this series, which is Sudarshan, if you can talk about your own personal journey in this sector as a professional over the past 2 years, and some of the challenges you would have faced as a leader. Every time you take up new endeavors and opportunities, you are shown new challenges. Our audience would love to hear from you.
So I mean, I'll, you know, try to keep it simple and straight. First of all, I think there was a conscious choice I made of being a part of the solution. And I believe that if you're not a part of the solution, then you are a part of the problem. And the second thing is, people may have 100 reasons and explanations of why they do what they are doing. For me, it's been a very selfish motive. Wherever I am, whatever I am doing, it's because of some self interest. The self interest is of immense satisfaction and happiness, of immense happiness at building a better, safer, and happier world. And in that, it comes in return to me. So it's a very selfish agenda and objective. I have also believed infinitely in participatory process or inclusiveness. So, to a fault, I would say, whether it's in my team or whether it's working with communities, this has resulted in a lot of times what people would call as suboptimal solutions or imperfect or solutions or initiatives riddled with uncertainties. I would, given a rebooting of everything, would again go for participatory process as the process, because my primary belief in change is that the change needs to be owned from within everybody. It can't be thrust from outside, and the change is not about change in activities, constructions, buildings. It's about people. It's about building capacities within people, and each one of us would determine what is the development journey of others. Some of us play the role of unlocking some of the latent potential, which is what even I try to do, and collaborate in that sense. So it's a collaborative learning process for me. Anything that we are doing is not a top down approach or as a given or a grant. So that's been a philosophy for me in person, and I take every opportunity, every situation as one in which I come out more educated for certain. And I think I would conclude by saying that the motto I gave to myself has stood me in great stead, which is I learn to listen and I listen to learn. And it's worked wonderfully for me, Satyam. It's magic.